we might just get started and introduce ourselves. So like I said, my name is Tuesday LaRue. I am originally from Cape Town, now in Dubai, and partnering up with MetaMind3.0 to try and bridge that gap from Web 2 to Web 3 and kind of reach everybody at whatever level they are. And we just want you guys to walk away from this learning something, getting some knowledge, hopefully having some fun with us and asking any questions that you have. We know a lot of these topics and a lot of these discussion points have been thrown around a lot. So we're here with experts, we're here with specialists in their field. You've got the time to dig in and ask the burning questions that maybe Twitter or Instagram or YouTube hasn't really been able to answer. That's what we're here for. So this event would not be possible without our incredible sponsors, Digital Grind. Digital Grind is a marketing and technology company dedicated to delivering creative experiences that inspire, deepen ties between companies and their customers. Their vision and their mission is to inspire people and companies across the world by integrating creativity, marketing, technology, and data to bring transformation, growth, connection, and accessibility for businesses and people all over the world. So as I say that, I want to welcome on Francois from Digital Grind. He is the head of client success at Digital Grind and MetaMind3.0. Francois, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of our managing partner, Brandon Buzitil, I'd like to thank you for joining us this evening. As most of you know, this moment is the future, and with us, you're in good hands. We're making it our mission to bridge the knowledge gap and work with our clients in navigating this space. I am Francois, as Tuesday said, Head of Client Success at Digital Grind and MetaMind 3.0. Welcome to our first MetaMind 3.0 online event. The reason for this initiative is to educate those like yourselves who would like to learn more about the space, asking the questions, what is the reality of what's going on? Why is there so much hype? Where do I fit? The big question we are trying to answer is, so what? Why should we care about the technology, and why should we care about the attention around the hype around Web3 and the Metaverse? Our intention is to pull back the curtain and demystify what's really going on and look at the utility and business applications that are being used with this technology. What are the current use cases that we can actually look at to realize this technology is actually solving issues that current and older technology was not able to? MetaMind 3.0 is here to help businesses and startups to navigate their transition from Web 2 to Web 3 and the Metaverse. We focus on bringing the right speakers to the table and focus on key topics that touch on numerous elements within the space to inform our listeners, followers, and attendees, and to spark ideas that can form into potential new business, new projects that can fuel economic growth. We are so excited to have you here with us this evening and join us on this incredible journey. Over to our incredible moderator and talented speakers.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Francois. So without further ado, I would actually love to welcome and do a little introduction to each of our incredible speakers. The first one is Anas. Anas is the co-founder of ArtsDAO, and ArtsDAO represents the largest Web3 community right here in the Middle East. He's also the co-host of Crypto Shake's podcast, which is absolutely taking over the Middle East and the world. He has he's been investing in crypto since 2018 and has previously worked as a crypto and fintech attorney with checkout.com. Thank you so much for joining us, Anas. We also
Thank you. Oh, go on. I just want to say thank you for that really very generous introduction.
Thank you so much for taking the time and joining us here. I'm super excited about everything ArtsDAO is doing. So we also have Douglas. Douglas is ChainMosaic's founder. Douglas has launched ChainMosaic, which has grown exponentially and boasts multiple partnerships spanning the globe. He He's also a blockchain strategist and Ultra.io NFT marketplace project manager, throwing him into the decentralized gaming industry. Welcome, Douglas.
Thanks so much, Tuesday.
We have Ida joining us. She is a strategic business development manager at JOURNEE. Ida is engrossed with building a digital future that is immersive and enables real connections between people. And as she says, I'm busy with the immersive part of Web3. Welcome, Ida.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
We've got Irina joining us. She is the head of ecosystem growth and business development, co-founding crypto finance boutique BQ9. Irina is established as an expert in NFTs and Web3 solutions. She's also the head of ecosystem growth and business development at Unique Networks. Welcome.
Thank you, everyone.
So I thought, with all these buzzwords and with all these kind of jargon of Web3, of NFTs, of blockchain going around, I would love to just start off with maybe just the fundamentals and just get a little foundation in before we kick off this really big, exciting topic. And Anas, I think we'll start with you. Is there a word that maybe a lot of people have been curious about that they don't quite understand and that you've had to explain?
I think for this discussion, we should start with a definition of Web3. We're obviously discussing that, and many of us here are interested in that space. And it's important to understand what that really means. So I think the best way to think about Web3 is first to understand what's Web 1 and what's Web 2. So Web 1 really kind of came out in the period between 1991 to 2004. The way Web 1 worked, if you guys remember, many of you guys here probably operated this, or maybe you're quite young and you don't remember Web 1, but the way it worked was you were a consumer of the content. You did not create any kind of content. The developer built a website that was just view only, so to speak. So the likes of Yahoo came out and you went on Yahoo. You didn't really produce anything, you just observed and read content. It was innovative for the time, but it wasn't enough to create what was necessary in the building of Web 2. So Web 2 was sort of the period between 2005 to 2020. Well, a little before, yeah, until now, we still have Web 2 operating, but this is when we saw the emergence of the likes of Facebook, Twitter, Google. And a key distinction between Web 1 and Web 2 was the emergence of creation, right? You can go on Twitter and create content that's viewable by other people. Instagram completely changed the game for photography. Nobody in the past, in Web 1, you would have to create your own website, and then maybe you could, post photos there. Web 2 allowed you to create it on a platform that was centralized by an organization, a company like Facebook, and have that reshared and viewed by other people. You're also able to make money through e-commerce, right? Through these Web 2 applications. The issue, however, was that these were run by one company, right? Significant operations that really didn't give any power to the creator. And so Web 3 emerged as a kind of alternative to Web 2 in that sense, right? What Web 3 changes from Web 2 is the philosophy that content created by creators or by any person should not necessarily be owned by an organization like Facebook or Google, right? Think about what happens now. The likes of, if you are on a Web 2 application like Facebook or Twitter or any Google, whatever, you can be censored and canceled by the so-called gatekeepers, right? Because they operate it. They have rules and regulations for how it works. Web 2 also extends to the likes of Apple. The way to launch an application on Apple requires you to follow the Apple app rules, right? Google Play has the same things. These are, in technology terms, these are called walled gardens. Web 3 kind of changes all of this. So the emergence of Ethereum, which enabled smart contracts, allows anybody to build on the Ethereum blockchain any kind of application that cannot be controlled or censored by a third party like Facebook. right? So right now, if you think about the applications that exist right now in the Web3 space, I can launch what's called a decentralized app. A good example for that is perhaps maybe some of you have heard of Uniswap. Uniswap is an exchange allowing you to trade crypto, right? If I was the developer of Uniswap, I did not need to apply to Apple or Google or Facebook or whatever to launch this. I just went out, got some coders who know and understand Solidity, which is the kind of smart contract language used to draft these kind of applications. You build it on HTML, and you can launch an application that can be connected with other people. The way people also connect with Web3 is very unique. You use crypto wallets, right? So some of you may have heard of MetaMask. There are other wallets like Trust Wallet. In Web2, you had to log in with a username and password, right? And they owned your data. They owned everything about you in that sense, right? Web3 allows you to create an application which holds crypto or your own assets. You can walk into the application, but you don't need to share your username and password with them. You can walk in, purchase what you need, and exit without sharing any data at all. And finally, I think the most important part is monetization. On Web2, all your applications, all your assets, if you think about data now being a very important part of the human condition, photography, tweets, all of these are media assets. When you post them on a Web2 application, they are actually owned by that Web2 application. And when you sell it or whatever, I mean, you can't really sell it, so to speak, right? Web3 allows you to sell your assets as digital assets in your own right, without any requirement to subscribe to that Web2 application. So in Web2, where a great way to think of visualize is on Web2, you earn likes, right? On Facebook or on Twitter or on Instagram. In Web3, you earn Ethereum, right? If you create a piece of photography or an art piece or any kind of application, you list it, you get your own consumers, your own following to come onto a platform that allows you to sell those applications or assets. You don't have to just earn likes, you can earn Ethereum, which is a huge revolution in how the creator economy is going to move forward. I'll stop there.
I love that. I feel like that just puts Web3 in like the simplest thing, like stop earning likes and start earning Ethereum. Like it just really breaks it down. Thank you so much. That was great. I feel like I know about it, but I love real life examples when you can put something and really see what's happening. Ida, I'd love to hear from you and your word that someone or a lot of people have asked you to explain.
Yeah, so I work for JOURNEE, the Metaverse company, so you can only imagine which word that is. That's obviously Metaverse. And the Metaverse is quite a debated word, like everything else in this space at the moment. And I would be brave to say that it isn't defined yet. We are in the process of defining it. And even when you're participating in sort of big organizations like the Metaverse Standards Forum, we don't have a unified definition yet. But the kind of ideas that are circling there is the next iteration of the internet. So doing it a little bit, just differentiating a little bit from just speaking about Web3, the Metaverse then is kind of the internet that you can step into. So it gives you an experience. It should be somehow immersive. At JOURNEE, we often say it should be much more beautiful than the internet that we are interacting with today. But you also have other ideas, like it should be possible to transition between your physical and your digital life seamlessly, that it's sort of everywhere in every device, etc. So there's a few ideas there, but you can just start imagining that immersiveness stepping into something instead of just passively consuming, which is Web 2, Web 1, right? There's also ideas about, and this is already happening, interconnectedness between different worlds and interoperability. So it's almost like we're seeing that there will be many different places you can go into, and that there will be some kind of metaverse, meta layer above it, which makes these worlds interoperable. And of course, then we get to ownership, right? And that's where the things that Anas was speaking about, and I know some of the others are going to touch upon just now. We need economies in these places, right? Digital ownership, because you want to wear something. And I'm going to let somebody else do the explanation for all of that, but that cryptos and NFTs come into there. And I would say that today we're somehow having glimpses of the metaverse. We see different executions right now. We have things like Decentraland, Sandbox, Roblox. We have many creator built. Metaverse is existing currently, so platforms where you can go in and build your own, for example, an NFT gallery, etc. And then there are people like JOURNEE that I work for that create pixel streamed white label metaverse solutions. So that's more like for a specific brand, they have their own world to step into. That would be it for me.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. You made it sound so beautiful. Yeah, it's definitely something that's coming, and there's a lot of different things that have been used to explain the metaverse. But I think that what you've touched on, that like even the experts and the top people in the field haven't really got that full definition yet, just speaks to how early we are in the space. And I just want to actually just thank everyone for joining us here, because we're all so early and things are still being defined and things are still moving and still growing. And to be a part of that is just super exciting. But I'm going to hand it over to Douglas, because I think that was a beautiful segue to what you want to speak about.
Yeah, thank you for that. Very thorough definitions for both of those terms. I noticed that the crowd is majority beginners, so I'll keep NFT as simple as possible. Because the definitions can get quite crazy and quite in-depth very quickly. So a lot of people, even joining this call, will know that NFT stands for non-fungible token, but not many people ask the question what fungible means. So it's kind of just thrown around and left there. So fungible is actually a term used by economists to refer to tradable goods. In other words, if you have one of the analogies I like is a barrel of crude oil, you can trade that for another barrel of crude oil and it stays the same. It's the same with fiat currency. You can trade £1 British for £1 British, they stay the same. When it comes to NFTs, it stands for non-fungible token. So it's pretty much one of the first times in history we have, I mean, aside from some very rare assets, but it's the first time in history we have easily creatable, unique assets. They just happen to be digital. So what does this mean? The NFT is sort of perceived to be the image or the music or the document that we tokenize. But really, the NFT refers to the underlying cryptographic record that traces the ownership of the item that it's actually related to. So before that gets too confusing, you can think about it like this. From the creation of the Gutenberg printing press, which was pretty much the first tangible iteration of copyable creative content. Since that happened, we haven't had a solution for copying content in the creator economy. And that was 1450, I think it was. So it's almost 572 years later, we haven't had a solution to this. Now, with the advent of the internet, this problem of copying created content got out of control. And even till now, the law or any other systems of governance have not been able to keep up with this problem. With the advent of blockchain technology, where NFTs and the cryptographic record is stored, somebody else will explain blockchain shortly, I'm sure, but they're stored on the blockchain. And now we have a solution to this problem in a digital sense, which is we can track ownership of a unique asset that cannot be copied because that contract is cryptographically secured. So as complicated as that is, it basically just means we can create something unique and it exists in a digital space and it cannot be copied. That's the definition of an NFT, but that will likely have multiple applications as we see it now. I mean, we've got everything from soul bonding NFTs, which are assigned to somebody and can never be sold, to NFTs that can now be rented. So there's a lot of new applications for it, but the definition is it is a unique digital asset. Hopefully that clears it up for all the beginners in the crowd tonight.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Thank you. I really appreciated that. That was great. If anybody still wants anything else, I see some questions coming in. We're going to have a Q&A at the end of it. So at the end of our discussion, sorry. So put your questions in and we'll try and answer as many questions as we can. But I'm going to pass it over to you, Irina.
Thank you, Tuesday. Really good points raised today. And what I would like to address is that we're living in a very interesting time and point of history where we have global challenges to deal with, where we live in the point where we need to revolutionize our economy and revolutionize the way that we transact value on the web. So the point, we need to really clearly understand the differences between Web3, Metaverse, application layers, and what are the challenges and problems we are addressing, because World Wide Web is not the internet. And precisely the problems lies in the layer of the web, which is an application layer, and which we now know is Web 2, where centralized companies and tech giants have control of our data. And that is one problem that we need to address, because most of us use social media, social platforms, we exchange information, we give away our data, and we have no idea how this data is used and how it is monetized. And that's one big problem. Then we have an economy problem. We have inequality, we have sustainable development goals and global challenges, such as how we're going to overcome poverty, how we're going to deal with unbanked population, how do we include people into financial system? Well, via blockchain technology, we have fintech industry innovating in that sector, now decentralized finance and non-fungible tokens that are, in essence, they're crypto assets. So we're not only talking about cryptocurrencies anymore, we're talking about transacting value, creating assets, and transacting this peer-to-peer via blockchain infrastructure. And then we have the metaverse, which used to be known for just being a virtual world, sort of a fantasy space, comes from the science fiction, has its kind of perception that is going to be a dark utopian, dystopian rather, space, and nothing good comes out of there. Then people from Web3 picked up the concept and decided, well, we're going to build a more inclusive, cool world where everything is interoperable, and we're going to have this gamified experience and bridge the on-chain world and off-chain world, exchange assets. And then we saw Meta jumping in the space, and now there is no longer a clear understanding what is the metaverse. Not all metaverses have Web3 elements in it. Not all metaverses use tokens. Some of them are just virtual worlds and games. And again, we're falling into an old paradigm where these centralized metaverses and platforms are doing just exactly the same as all other Web2 applications are doing, monetizing on your data and on your creation. So these are very important things to communicate to people who just entered the space, why they would need non-fungible tokens, why it is important to have token economy, and how you can distinguish decentralized platform and why decentralization is so important on the level of applications, and how to be in control of your data and your assets. But the bottom line, I think, of every true Web3 company is that we are giving back the power of ownership to the user, for you to decide where you take your token, how you monetize it, what price you attach to it, which virtual worlds, marketplaces you want to have your presence and economy in. So for me, Web3 is really about decentralization and using token economy to benefit the end user.
Thank you. I love that. And I think that actually leads me to my next question, asking, I'm really curious to know your views on intellectual property and how moving into Web3, into NFTs, into the decentralized space. I know a few of you touched on it in terms of that Web2 you kind of gave over everything, and Web3, we're now able to kind of take some of our power back in terms of that, and just how that looks like, what that looks like for your specific areas of focus. Ida, would you like to kick us off with that one? Just intellectual property.
Sure. I mean, I will obviously speak from the perspective of JOURNEE that I work for now, where I would say we're not doing it yet, because we're very much what Irina was saying, a sort of Web 2 looking company. We don't do transferable assets yet. So what we look at there is obviously not touching it at all, which is another solution at the moment. So I would like to hand over the property rights discussion to somebody else who's much more deep into it. And I know we have quite a few of them.
Yeah, Anas, would you like to jump in and speak to us about intellectual property, what that looks like? I know that we've got a question that got asked just about how do you prevent yourself from criminals from kind of getting into the Web3 space? How can we stop that from happening? I think Douglas spoke about people being able to steal and copy artwork. What does that look like? And is there any real life cases that you can give us on that subject?
So I will very candidly say that part of being early in a space is that things don't work entirely as well as they do in the Web 2 space, right? Also, the amount of money that has been invested into Web 2 vis-a-vis Web 3 is a significant difference. So Web 2 has had the benefit of several years of compound innovations for it to get to where it was. I'm sure many of you remember Facebook in the very beginning, Instagram in the very beginning. It wasn't a perfect product. We're there right now with Web3, right? Things aren't perfect. And so I will openly say, yes, with our collection, ArtsDAO, we did an NFT drop. There are currently 3 or 4 different copycat editions of ArtsDAO on OpenSea and on the likes of other platforms like LooksRare. There are scams that happen all the time. One of the, like, in one's view, the price of decentralization is the lack of a police force, so to speak, right? So with Web 2, right, you had a police force in the form of regulatory rules imposed by the centralized authority, right? The centralized authority could say, so Apple, if you want to publish an app on the Apple App Store, you have to meet their requirements. If it doesn't meet the requirements, you get shut down. I worked for a company before that was backed by the UAE government, and actually they actually got shut down because of certain things that they were doing by Apple, right? You can't do that in Web3, right? You launch an app, it could be a complete scam. There's no way to shut it down. The way it's working right now is some form of self-regulation where, and that's not a perfect kind of way to solve this either, I know, but the way people are, a key point in investing in the space is, yes, it is high risk. It comes with high returns because of the higher risk, but you always have to do a lot of your own personal research. So for example, if you're investing into an NFT project, and I mean, this is why as the space has evolved, it's become a little bit more like the venture capital space. More in the beginning of the NFT space earlier last year, people were buying all kinds of things. But now we're in a space where people are now asking, who are the founders of the project, right? Is there a white paper? Is there X, Y, Z? And in a sense, it looks like venture capital, right? If you think about what venture capitalists are doing on a day-to-day basis, they meet founders of companies, they decide to seed them money to found their project or their business idea, and they have no idea whether that will succeed or not. That's kind of what the scene looks like in the NFT space right now. You know, with us, with ArtsDAO, when we launched, we faced serious, you know, I mean, this is also a good thing, right? Our community, which we built.
Can I just ask one question? For those who don't know what a DAO is, I would love you to just explain that. You talk about ArtsDAO. I know they're absolutely amazing. I'm super excited. But can you tell us a little bit about a DAO and also a white paper, what that means?
Sure. So a DAO, very simple. I don't want to speak too much, but a decentralized autonomous organization is a new kind of company built on the blockchain. The way it works in the simple terms, think about a WhatsApp group, which has a shared bank account. So it's kind of like a crowd-funded sort of organization. But what is unique about it is that it combines the shareholder and the employee into one unit, right? So in the past, capital, the way capitalism used to work was you have shareholders who employ labor, right? In classic kind of sort of classical terms, to do the bidding of the shareholders and make money, right? So Apple has a team of shareholders that employs staff who earn a salary, and then the monies are generated for the benefit of shareholders. The way a DAO works different. The shareholder and the employee are merged into one. It's a new idea and it doesn't work perfectly, but the employee / shareholder is able to vote on actions of the DAO. So if the DAO wants to buy an asset, all members of the DAO have to vote in favor of it. Now, there are other ways of doing it. There's also like a representative democracies where the members of the DAO elect a council to vote and to make the actions on behalf of the organization. This is what we have at Arts DAO. But yeah, that in a nutshell is what's happening. And it's a form of disrupting the company space, right? We have a lot of DAOs now. They manage a lot of monies. You have DAOs investing in NFTs, like what we do. We have DAOs investing in a decentralized finance. You have DAOs funding X, Y, and Z. It's a very, very fun and innovative space. White paper, very quickly, that is basically a document that outlines the sort of goals of a given project or organization. So the white paper kind of thing initially came from Bitcoin. So I'm sure many of you are aware of Bitcoin being the first cryptocurrency, but the Bitcoin white paper was published by a guy named Satoshi Nakamoto. He's anonymous, but he wrote this initial paper outlining what the goals of Bitcoin. This term white paper has now been adopted by various other projects in outlining how to launch or what that project is all about. But yeah, just to summarize, the solution to the IP problem has not been solved. How it's being solved now is a combination of Twitter, so information coming in from the community saying XYZ is a scam, stay away. Personal research. So you do the research, you look on the chain, you look on Etherscan or different types of blockchains to identify, is this money going in a legitimate place? That requires a lot of technical skills. And to some extent now we're seeing centralized players policing the space. So OpenSea, with all the fake accounts that are happening, you can now contact OpenSea to delist a platform. In a way, that's also a bad thing because that makes it sound like Google or like Apple. So we're kind of going into a space where it looks like we don't really have a decentralized solution to the ideal of a decentralized world. But I'll stop there. I don't know. I'm sure, Douglas, you're also an attorney. Maybe you have some views on this.
I really do want to jump in on that. I appreciate that. I will correct you in a second. I'm not an attorney. I have a master's in law, but I'm not an attorney. So anybody trying to DM me for legal advice, not legal advice. But I really do have I wrote my dissertation on how IP law is affected by blockchain. And I'll keep it very brief because I also want to hear from the other panelists about this topic. But what's really exciting is that, again, the weird thing is NFTs are made up of two parts at their most basic makeup, which is the cryptographic record and the artwork or music piece, whatever is the record is actually recording. So when it comes to IP law, what's really interesting is the artwork or the asset that the record is protecting or following is a creative work. And creative works have historically been very tough to follow who copied what, which is the original, etc. What's interesting is that the cryptographic record cannot be copied. And that's the whole beauty of blockchains. It can't be copied at all. So there we have our biggest problem, which is the creative works that overlay these NFTs, and the biggest solution, which is blockchain technology. So WIPO, which is the World Intellectual Property Organization, they actually wrote a white paper last year or early this year, I'm not sure, about the application of blockchain in enforcing IP protection. And there's a lot of applications for it. Again, like everybody else has said, which is very true, still very early on. The law is developing rapidly through this, quicker than it has in Web 2. And it's a very exciting place to be in. But yeah, I think that blockchain poses not only the biggest threat, but also the biggest solution for IP records management and digital rights management, which are DRM tools. Currently, we use very archaic versions of them, but blockchain really does quantumly improve on these. So it's an interesting topic, and yeah, anybody interested in learning more, please feel free to contact me on LinkedIn. I'll send you my dissertation and some other interesting materials.
Great. Irina, did you have anything you wanted to add to that topic?
Well, it's really about improving on our cloud systems, because it's not only a blockchain, it's an entire ecosystem that makes things decentralized. So the way we run the governance, the way we organize ourselves, and most importantly, the way every single person takes responsibility and control of his data and assets. And we still need a lot of time to come to this consciousness, to understand why we need this. A lot of people are not actually aware of how their data is managed, which is totally fine, because we're not aware how we don't know how the airplane is designed, right? You don't have to be an airplane engineer to use an airplane and fly everywhere. Same about Web3. You don't have to be an engineer of blockchain to use it and benefit from the technology. So there is still a lot to improve on the side of blockchain companies. There are many more startups coming in the space, and as Anas mentioned, there's still much more need for funding, because the money we have, the investment we have in Web3 is still not the size of Web 2, and we still need maybe 10 more years to grow, but it's gaining momentum, and NFTs became a very important tool to reach the mass adoption, to reach people via the art. Actually, I do believe that we've always connected via beautiful things, artistic things. This is what unites people. This is what attracted a lot of artists, celebrities in the space, and we need to build communication around it. We need to build more communities, educate people, and the most valuable thing of this decentralized blockchain space is actually the community. People who come in, their genuine intentions, their belief in what can be built, what must be built, and if we continue this way, I think we have all the parameters to succeed. Of course, there are more applications. For example, right now, speaking of the legal side and IPs, there are startups that are doing sort of an off-chain evaluation of the provenance of the artwork. So they also issue, there are legal teams that issue certificates. Again, it's not perfect and it's not totally automated, but would it ever be totally automated? That is the question we need to ask ourselves. Do we really want to be always powered by artificial intelligence and computers deciding everything? And, is it achievable to think that blockchain is going to solve our problems, all of them, and we as people are not going to be involved? For me, it's more about, we need to unleash our creativity. We need to come up with new business models. We need to build ecosystems. We need to rebuild trust, but trust based on transparency and facts that blockchain provide us. But it's really about rebuilding fundamentally the way we live and communicate and do business with each other.
Thank you so much. I love that, especially when you said it's about community. That's how I actually got into the space, building clout, building trust, and coming in the community I got involved with really did that. And that trust from the get-go really gave me an excitement to want to be a part of the space and take it even further. Now, speaking of community, Ida, I would love to hear about the metaverse, just in terms of communities and how communities work in the metaverse. And is that the next step to building communities?
I think there are several answers to your questions, just as there are several approaches to building metaverse. And we have very Web3 blockchain oriented participants here in the panel. So I would love to hear their opinions on more of that community building, which works a little bit different, right? But what we're seeing right now is definitely community, community, community. Everything is about community building. And for those who are very new to the space or are listening in today, a lot of community building is happening on something called Discord. It's a kind of private chat. So go Google that, everyone, and join some Discord communities and start learning about it. But of course, there's other ways. I mean, if you look at more from, again, a perspective of immersiveness, and is it just text messages that build communities, or is it something where we actually emotionally connect? And that's, again, where those visuals come in and something beautiful. So I keep repeating that word a lot. So, you know, as humans, when we have something that we experience as stunning, different, that's when we get inspired. And that's also when we can start developing a shared experience, which is crucial in building connection and essentially communities, right? So I would say there's many different ways to build it. And yeah, I would love to hear more from the people who are in the panel as well.
Great, thank you so much. So I don't know if we want to stick to the topic of communities, if you guys have anything to add in terms of communities, but we've got some really cool questions as well coming in.
I think we should expand on the community side, just to add value for the audience, because I'm assuming a lot of the members of the audience are coming here to learn how, one, they can invest in Web3, two, how they can build in Web3, and three, why people are obsessed with it and how they can learn about it. So I think just to build on this point, right? So a little bit of kind of brief history. So the way Web3 really kind of emerged, right? Before, Web3 wasn't really a term bandied about until the NFT space really picked up a lot of steam. And this happened, you know, the NFT space really picked up from the issuance of what's called the CryptoPunks. These were distributed in 2017. They are digital images of these punk-looking characters. I'm sure some of you have seen them. They're sold for millions of dollars at Christie's and various other auction houses, and they're coveted by a lot of people in the NFT space. They were initially gifted out for free, but they've since become very valuable because they're small in supply. There's only 10,000 of them in issuance, and they hold historical value by being some of the first NFTs that have been issued. Community building began through the CryptoPunks in the NFT space, because some of the people who collected these NFTs would want to get together on the online space to talk. Now, what's interesting about the CryptoPunks is that they were meant to be anonymous, right? To not showcase who you were, so you could communicate. So people were using these as avatars on Twitter and on Discord to connect with other like-minded people without necessarily revealing who they are, right? The crypto philosophy, going back all the way to Bitcoin, was that you don't need to reveal who you are in transacting. I know that might give some people like, oh, well, that just sounds like you're a criminal, but there are various other reasons where people just do not want personal information and data to be distributed, or my name. Let's say I'm buying X product. I don't necessarily need anybody else to know that I'm buying whatever product I'm buying. So that extended to the avatar personal space, so to speak, right, with the NFT space. So the CryptoPunks, a Discord emerged out of this, where people were gathering on a Discord, which is like, it's usually used for gamers, but a Discord is a place that houses a community. You can have announcements, you can have all kinds of things in there, projects, all kinds of stuff. You have different channels. Think about it, I don't know if any of you use Slack. It's sort of like Slack, but it's sort of for gamers, more or less, right? It's now been adopted by the NFT space, more or less. People build these to have thousands of members now to share information very, very quickly with a large number of people. This has now become an essential mechanism for building a Web3 project, right? So if you want to build in Web3, one of the first things you're going to probably need to do is build a Discord. Your Discord and your community are actually your customers. So the concept of the customer has also changed in Web3. So in Web2, where you had the customer, where you wanted to acquire them and sell them something, in Web3, what you're trying to do is make them a part of your community so that they can buy your product, right? They're buying your NFT, or they're buying or being part of your Web3 journey. Now, what's interesting about this change is that in Web2, you did marketing directly to the customer so that they would buy the product and they would go away being very happy with it. They might post it on Instagram, whatever. But what's different about Web3 is that you don't actually need to, the marketing is actually done in many ways by the community member. So the way the NFT space blew up, especially the collectible space, so the CryptoPunks, later on Yuga Labs with the Bored Ape Yacht Club, afterwards CloneX, which was then bought by Nike. Now we have other big players coming in like Prada. All of them are coming into the space because they've noticed that the marketing is actually done or can be done organically by community members, right? When people buy your NFT, they then make it their avatar on Twitter. And they do the same thing on Discord. Suddenly, if you sold 10,000 NFTs to all these people, you have 10,000 people who are members of your community who are marketing your product effectively free of charge, right? And that's the big goal with Web3, right? To get a community of that size. And that's in many ways how the Bored Ape Yacht Club, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, right, became one of the largest NFT projects in the world today. They're now backed by venture capitals and worth apparently $1 billion, right? Because of the branding they've been able to build. So Web3 now has emerged into a space that allows, it's sort of like a crowdfunding space, allowing customers to become members of a community so that they can own an asset, which they can market on behalf of the project founders without the project founders having to do any real marketing work, so to speak, right? But a lot of work has to happen pre-sale, right? An NFT drop or a Web3 drop is often like an IPO in some sense. You're building your Twitter account, so you have to, because there's no regulators, right? Anyone can launch a product. You have to build a credible platform on Twitter so people trust you. You do the same thing on Discord. You're having regular AMAs, so ask me anything. So you have Twitter Spaces. That's what leads to the community loving you, wanting to invest in you because they believe in buying your NFT, it'll go up in price and they'll also make money alongside you, okay? So I just want to pause there because that's like I think it's very important that I share this with the people here so you understand how the Web3 space is kind of growing right now. So if you're a builder, right, and you want to build an NFT project or a Web3 project, you've got to understand Twitter, you've got to understand Discord, and you have to be connected in those two spaces. If you want to invest in Web3, it's the same thing. You got to be deep on Twitter, deep in Discord, talking and DMing. It's all about networking in the space. I'll stop there in case other people on the panelists want to chime in and say anything.
Well,
yeah, I would actually,
sorry, go for it. I was actually going to ask you to speak, Irina, talking about community.
yeah, it's a great point you've mentioned the CryptoPunks. Actually, we continue the innovation. So I wanted to share something that we are doing at Unique Network because there are limitations, as many of you may be aware. Why like NFTs, you know, there are gas fees that are high, so they may prevent smaller companies to jump into the space. And what would you do with NFT once you minted it? And many of your community perceive it, okay, as a JPEG, I can use it as an avatar, but what's next? So what's next? We're building it in PolkaDot ecosystem. And one of the campaigns we're running right now, we bought a CryptoPunk. We bought a CryptoPunk, which is an expensive exclusive item. And because we always talk about democratization, inclusivity, that blockchain space should be for everybody, ownership should be for everybody. So we bought this punk and we're fractionalizing it and giving it away to community for free. So everybody can follow the link. You can either use your MetaMask wallet address or register PolkaDot.js wallet address. It will take you to a Telegram bot You just paste your address and you get a fraction of your CryptoPunk. Then we will also buy from the community one of the SubstraPunks. SubstraPunks are the native collection on Substrate, a PolkaDot in PolkaDot ecosystem, a tribute to the community. We'll also fractionalize that one. And then the quest unfolds. I can't do announcements in this point, but the point is that we will have, actually, we already have, we will soon announce the number of the owners of this CryptoPunk, but we now brought more people, more owners of a CryptoPunk, even though you own a fraction, but you can use, you have the full right.
This is super cool.
Ownership over the CryptoPunk in PolkaDot ecosystem.
Okay.
And what we are trying, like, we don't know what's going to happen next because it's an experiment. It's a punk move because we just bought this expensive stuff. We're giving it to people and we're going to see what they're going to do about it. Is there going to be a marketplace built over it? Because this is pretty much what happened with the first collection that Unique Network created for PolkaDot ecosystem. Our team has won a hackathon in August 2020 and created SubstraPunk collections, and then people began trading it OTC, so which wasn't safe.
Irina, I'm just gonna have to not cut you off, but just we're running a little bit short on time and we've got some questions, burning questions from our audience that I want to get to you. And I think you might be able to help us out, but if anybody else is able to answer any of these questions, please feel free, Douglas included. This is one from Jason. He says, as a digital growth marketer, I'm attending this to anticipate how the tech and marketing landscape will change with the emergence of these new technologies. Can we say that Google is at the forefront of Web3? There's been a lot of interesting developments and changes to Google's policies and cookies, but I'm left wondering, if the emergence of Web3 is either going to make Google's influence even more widespread, or will it be the opposite?
I'm happy to jump in on that one.
Yeah, please.
And only part of it because the one statement that stood out to me in that question was, is Google at the forefront of Web3? And excuse my dark humor, but it's kind of like saying El Salvador because they adopted Bitcoin is at the forefront of crypto. It's great. It's great that somebody's doing something first, but it doesn't mean that all the problems go away. El Salvador is still struggling economically. El Salvador is still struggling with adoption. So with that analogy, I'm just kind of highlighting that Google can be in the forefront of the Web3 space. Facebook can be at the forefront of the metaverse space. It doesn't mean they're at the forefront of the metaverse space or Web3 space. I think that it kind of, one of the things I was going to touch on with the community question, which also leads into this, is there's, philosophically speaking, there's an aggressive overcorrection happening. People have spent a lot of time in their life working for people, earning what they shouldn't be, or less than they should be, spending more time than they should be doing the work they don't want to do to buy stuff they don't need. Excuse me for quoting Fight Club, but it is the essence of the overcorrection we're seeing. So now we're seeing this aggressive move towards decentralization, as they call it, or anonymity and groupthink in a big way. So what community is, and us quite rightly highlighted, is instead of competing with each other to get slightly higher salaries or a better position in a company, we're now working together to make sure that's not even in the equation. And it sounds very philosophical and very cheesy, but that is what's happening. So back to the question, when it comes to who's at the front of the Web3 space, it's like saying MySpace was at the front of the social media space. Yeah, sure, for a little bit, but Facebook came in and aggressively overtook. Then Twitter overtook Facebook in a lot of ways, Instagram, and I could go on. But it's an ever-changing landscape at the moment, and somebody might have a monopoly one day, and the next day there's a new monopoly. I mean, Bored Ape Yacht Club have been hit off the top leaderboard 3 or 4 times just this last month. So I think I might be going off the topic a little bit here, but bottom line is I don't think anybody's at the forefront of the space. And that's kind of the point of it. We don't want any forefront runners. We want everybody working together, ideally, to build the space out together. And I think for the most part, we're succeeding. I think there's some bad actors. I think there's also some misconception. And there's going to be centralization. Humans just tend to flock around the most popular item. But we are doing very well to re-centralize the wealth shift at the moment. And I think that's going to continue for the foreseeable future. In terms of your position as a digital growth marketer, Jason, the tech and marketing landscape has changed already. It's not about selling, it's about sharing. And that sounds like an oversimplification, but honestly, if you come into it with that sort of state of mind, you'll be surprised how quickly you get adopted into the space.
I think you're right. Just from my experience in the space and supporting people, being part of spaces that want to share and want to help, almost gets you invested in the community, because you know they're there to help the community. And when they do something and put something out there, you're more willing and wanting to support them, just how they supported you with getting into the community, getting into the space as well. So 100% right. I'm gonna get on to our next question. I actually really like the way this one is worded. If I want to use crypto to purchase, isn't it too volatile? For example, if I buy an apple at one crypto that's worth $1, but what happens if a few seconds later that same crypto is worth $10, now making that apple way too expensive? How can merchants use crypto to price things? Or will it always be relative to other currencies? Would anybody be happy to take that question?
Stable coins, for example, would be one of the solutions. Again, they're not perfect. There is a lot of experimentation in the space. We have USDT, is not a perfect coin. Recent market kind of thunder showed us where the problems are. But again, these problems, most of them relate to centralized platforms. So the future may well be in the hands of unstoppable decentralized platforms that will really launch something that we cannot control, which is kind of a wild experiment, but probably the only way to go. But still, there is a long way. Still, we need to leverage Web 2, and also going back to the previous question, like nobody's going to be out of jobs. In a foreseeable couple of years, we still need to run Twitter Spaces. We still need to engage people on existing platforms to transition to Web3, and education will be the key part of it. Also in terms of crypto assets and cryptocurrencies available, and the volatility and how you manage that, because jumping, not a financial advisor here, right? Don't jump into the space with your savings, with the last money. Just if you want to experiment, do this with the, consciously and knowing what you're doing, or seek financial advice from the space, because this is very important. A lot of people get actually scared off because of the volatility, but it's not just that, right? It's not just the speculation. There's also technology space, and you can approach this from a lot of testing environments as well.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. One of the first things I learned was do your own research, and doing your own research and being part of a community are two really important things, a community that you can trust and surround yourself with people. And that's absolutely why I love having these spaces and having all you guys here. And Anas, I would love to hear your view on this question as well.
I was just going to say very briefly that you should view each crypto often has a purpose behind it, right? So just because a crypto is volatile, yes, volatility is kind of critical in these early stages when you're investing. Eventually, it's likely that a lot of cryptos will lose their volatility. Note that the market capitalization, i.e. the amount of money supposedly in the space is close to $1 trillion or something, right? And the remaining sort of economy greatly exceeds this. So the traditional financial economy exceeds this by several, I think it's almost $4 quadrillion representing the traditional financial space. So when we look at the stock market, or we look at other industries, the volatility of like 4%, 5%, that's considered significant in that industry, because you wouldn't see huge volatility in those industries given how regulated they are, and the significant amount of capital that's already invested into that space compared to crypto. Now, another thing about crypto is that Ethereum, Bitcoin, stablecoins. So Irina, you mentioned stablecoins, but each of these serve different purposes, right? For a merchant transacting between with a customer, you may not want to use Bitcoin or Ethereum or some other cryptocurrency that has volatility because it doesn't meet the purpose for that transaction, right? A stable coin would be more suitable for that kind of transaction. It's not, but that doesn't mean Ethereum and Bitcoin are then useless, right? Bitcoin has its purpose as a form of, in some might say, a digital gold, right? So people buy it supposedly as a hedge against inflation, and it has its usage in that case. Ethereum has emerged as a kind of token for the new so-called world computer, right? I talked about how you can now build any kind of app without the need to be regulated. Ethereum is critical to that, right? So Ethereum will be necessary in that case. Trading of NFTs has often occurred in Ethereum terms as well. And that's also part of the adjustment process. So when you buy NFTs right now on OpenSea, a lot of them trade in ETH. People are often trying to make a return that is higher than the return they would get on ETH. So let's say if you were to hold Ethereum, you could make a 1 or 2x return over 1 year. Some people view that if you invest into NFTs, you can make a 3x return on top of your Ethereum return as well, because you're investing that Ethereum into a project, right? An NFT project managed by founders. This is obviously a gamble. And it's kind of, like I said, sort of like the venture capital space where you're kind of figuring out what companies to back, but it's part of the investment space, right? And any kind of investment strategy across this should have a good allocation where you're looking at NFTs, maybe have some funds in Bitcoin, you have some funds in Ethereum, and that's it, right? You have some funds in sort of stable coins, but they each serve different purposes, okay? Hope that clarifies that question.
I know we've got limited time, but I really want to throw in just a quick joke that somebody told me the other day in terms of somebody asked him a similar question, which is why would I want to buy crypto and move away from fiat currency? And his response, I still love it, is when you're talking about fiat versus crypto, you're talking about being slowly poisoned or shot in the head, and it's your choice. So I just always like that analogy, and it's not all doom and gloom, but I prefer to get shot in the head personally.
So, I mean, just to build on that, the reason why he's saying that is because fiat is printable, right? One of the main reasons people buy crypto is the view that it's limited in supply and it cannot be created in. I know there are loads of cryptos out there, and many cryptos are probably going to go to zero. But the likes of Bitcoin have established themselves as being a hedge to inflation because, unlike the US dollar, unlike other types of currencies, they cannot be printed out of thin air, right? Supposedly 40% of all US dollars in existence were printed in 2020 to 2021. And in any other kind of occasion, that would normally lead to a hyperinflationary environment, the likes of which we've seen in the 1920s and 30s with Germany. We've seen that in Argentina. We've seen that in Zimbabwe. We're already kind of seeing inflation right now all over the world. So the view, I think what Douglas is saying is you can put your money into fiat, right, and probably suffer loss of value, or you can try to put your money into something else which will hold value over time.
Thank you. I love that. I just wanted to we got 1 or 2 more questions before we wrap up. I think this one, here we go. I'm a 3D artist and I wanted to see how my skills would be useful and marketable to the existing or emerging platforms, especially using real world skills to transition into a Web3 space. Ida, I think you'd be perfect for this one. Ida?
Yeah, this is straight up my alley. Yes, I think my internet just got a little bit funky. Can you hear me okay now? Yes, cool. So let's go. I'm really excited to hear that somebody is a 3D artist. Again, as I've been speaking about beautiful and immersive a lot, we need people like this. If you think about that, the internet, basing on all this conversation we have of crypto and the NFTs, etc., instead of having a website that is sort of flat with text, etc., we will actually have immersive websites, right? So being a 3D artist, dive into it, get really good at Unreal, Unity. If you aren't already, I can't tell by the question itself, you will be very valuable. And if you do already know Unreal and Unity, you're extremely employable. Okay. So that is one thing. And then I would want to add, if you are a 3D artist that, for example, works with architecture, or if you've worked with any other spatial experiences, you're also going to be valuable, because we're translating in a way where the web has been, again, video, text, etc. Now we are trying to, and we're succeeding, recreate experiences that can connect people emotionally, right? And if you're, for example, an architect, you know how to do that. If you know how to design event spaces, etc., you already have the skill set, and you just have to transfer it digitally.
That's great. What would you say would be the first steps of someone who's just getting into the Web3 space that says, I want to get in, I want to put my creativity and all my skills into that? What is there like a kind of just like a first step that they could take, a space they could join?
I'll speak again, according to Clyde here as a 3D artist. I would say start studying what's happening, listen to lots of podcasts, visit spaces. That is really important. So visit, of course, all the type of metaverse places, check out all the digital fashion that is happening, but also go into really immersive spaces like JOURNEE-like experiences. See what it is, and then follow what inspires you.
I love that. I feel like that's especially in the creative world.
Can I add something to that just to help Clyde? I think it's critical that you build a following. Now, what I will say, I know this might not be, look, the NFT space is not a godsend, right? Just because you're an NFT doesn't mean you're going to make lots of money. NFTs are 80% marketing, 20% effort, or the sort of the reality behind that, right? And the marketing part is actually the hard part. If you are a 3D artist and you want to, 1, sell your NFTs, 2, build in the space in some way, or 3, become employable in some other way, you can become employable by having the skill set. And yes, you can go through the CV route, and maybe you don't need a following for that. But if you're going to launch NFTs, or you're going to build something, you're going to have to build an audience for that. And the place to do it is not Instagram, it's Twitter. Build an audience on Twitter. It's not easy, it takes time, but I think it can take, in 6 months, I've helped multiple artists grow from 0 to 5,000 followers. It comes from attending spaces, tweeting, connecting with other artists, joining other Discords, buying other NFT projects. As you do this, you will also lose money, but you will also make money. You have to harden yourself. You have to have skin in the game. Do it for 3 to 6 months, and I guarantee you'll be in a position where you'll be able to market something of your own.
Can I just finish off that with, I really like this edition, but I don't want to scare anyone away from the space, because you can get employed as well. So there's basically 2 routes, just to clarify that, where we were kind of representing one each. One is that you transfer your skill set and you can work in a very normal job situation, or you go this very exciting route of actually building your own following. Okay, I can see some guys are going to jump into Web3 in the chat here.
Love it. Yes. So I think we're kind of going to be wrapping up slowly. I think that if I can sum up a few of the questions, and maybe you guys can close off with these comments, is what is the first steps to kind of get into Web3, the beginner's tools, as I mentioned, kind of like Yahoo GeoCities, what are those steps? And then the other question maybe you can just touch on is, here we go. There was a question that we had. Do the panelists truly believe that Web3 can run without monetization or centralization. Monetization, yeah. So I think if we can maybe close up on those two topics, and we can just get your guys' input just in terms of getting into Web3 for beginners tools, as well as talking about Web3. Can Web3 run without, there we go, without monetization and centralization?
It is already running to some extent. You just need to make sure that you're really dealing with decentralized wallets, DEXs, metaverses, NFT projects, etc. Where it's all going to go and how it's going to develop is a good question. But in order to solve the challenges, the global challenges we have now, we do need decentralized system that no one can really control. But in what shape and form, and how we're going to shape it as people, how we are not going to lose control of it, when quantum computing will be available and there are quantum blockchains in development, what role will AI play? That is a very good question, and it's not a, you know, with respect to the panelists today, we need much more expertise and many more players involved to judge on these questions and to see where we're going, because it's truly you know, an important question to answer, because it's a question to answer where are we going as a humankind, not just a business, a little company, because this would really impact the way we live and work and exist on a fundamental level. So it's a very deep question.
If I can jump in there, just because what Irina just said, it's a perfect segue. I'll just, the 2 points that you said. So in terms of the tools or jumping into the space from the beginning, I did 3 things, and I said to a lot of people, which is learn, engage, and build, and in that order. So do your research, and you know, I can list a bunch of platforms that have information, but those platforms are going to be eclipsed tomorrow by new platforms. So honestly, what I did in the beginning was I just went latest Web3 news, latest NFT news, latest this thing, and you very quickly learn how to determine where the sources are that are respected and where the sources are that are just repurposing other information and sort of packaging it differently. Another tool I use daily is LinkedIn. I connected with people who are actually building in the space, and again, you quickly learn how to determine who that is. And I think what Anas said with LinkedIn and Discord, Twitter and Discord, I think it has definite merit, and I think there's a lot of action happening in those 2 platforms. For me, the reason I have grown what I have on LinkedIn is because you can lie about what you've done on LinkedIn, but as soon as you start engaging with that person, and as soon as you start having evidence of what they've done, you become inspired by that, but you also have the proof that they've done it. You can see through their connections, through their communications, through the people who follow them, through the people they engage with, who the people are who are pushing the space forward. Engage with them. So it's learning and then engaging. And then once you're at a point where you feel your ideas have merit, where you feel your creativity can sort of, you know, take its own shape, then you start building. Whether it's content creation, whether it's simply hosting a podcast that just disseminates the knowledge. Do these things. If you're a coder, if you're a graphic designer, these things translate. Start building what you want to build. Start engaging and joining other communities or projects and contribute. So those 3 things have really just completely changed my life in the span of 2 years. I've gone from being in the music industry and working part-time in a corporate environment to working with communities and projects that I really respect and building my own thing at the same time. So I think those 3 things are important. When it comes to the other point of the question, whether decentralization, with respect to Irina and probably a lot of other people in the space, I have my reservations about full decentralization. I prefer the term re-centralization. I think that humans naturally gravitate towards I won't say hierarchy, but towards a structure. And I think that that structure is going to take a different form in the way that more people will be trusted with the keys to the city rather than one person governing everybody else. So I think re-centralization is in the near future, and maybe in the far future decentralization, but I don't have high hopes for full decentralization at this point in time, simply because I just don't think it's viable or practical. and we can find a happy middle ground. But again, with respect to Irina, because I think that she poses some very good points.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was really, really impactful. Can you just repeat those three things again? It was
learn, engage, and build. And build can also take the form of contribute. So
that's beautiful. Build, support, you know, support other people, build your own projects, get people involved. I love that. And then we will wrap things up with you, Ida.
Thank you. I think we just got a poll up as well.
Yes, I think this is our last poll. So guys, if you see the poll on the screen, you're more than welcome to just pop your answers in, and we'll just circle back to that as we wrap up.
Okay, so the two ones, the first was sort of the starter kit, right? I really love what Irina and Douglas has been saying already, and I agree with most of it. Twitter, LinkedIn as well, big for me. And I think the only thing, and especially this transferability of skills, huge to get into the space. You know, don't think that it's something that you have to know about. Use your curiosity, and it's quick to learn, because we are all learning, and even all of us who are in this panel, we're learning. In this space, it's never not okay to say, I don't know. So that's just something to keep in mind while you're exploring those routes in that especially Douglas was mentioning. And then with the Web3 and regulations, etc., I think that we are going to see the next, or we're starting to see already, you know, this kind of happening at the same time, the web and the Web 2 and the Web3 existing together, and also blending in many ways. I think, you know, very soon we're going to have e-commerces that are crossing those boundaries. It's not going to be black and white, right? And with that, obviously, then we're going to sort of have centralization and decentralization at the same time. And then hopefully, as Irina is saying, moving to a different system, something that could actually solve some of the problems we're facing in the world today.
Great, thank you so much. So I hope that all of you guys have really enjoyed listening to all of our incredible speakers, and they're all online. So I'm sure that they wouldn't mind if you had any questions, anything else that didn't get answered, you could reach out to them. If you go onto MetaMind's link on LinkedIn, speaking about LinkedIn, head over to their LinkedIn. You can be able to reach out to our amazing speakers that have helped us and kind of guided us through this beautiful journey that we're still on, and we're still together building. So we've got our poll back, and the question that we asked is, are you currently considering starting something commercial in Web3? We have 8% saying, I'm looking to invest in an existing project. 52% saying, I would like to start my own Web3 project. That is actually surprising to me. And 40% saying, just looking to learn. Wow. I don't know if we want to wrap things up just commenting on that poll. That poll really actually surprised me, how many people are excited to start their own projects. And I think the more you learn about the space, the more that you can see that whatever you were doing before Web3 and Web2 can translate and does add value. So I'm going to hand the mic over to you guys if you want to just comment on that poll.
I'll jump in very quickly, because I saw a similar post the other day on LinkedIn by one of these colleagues that I really respect and have built a lot. And it was an image or meme of 3 columns, and they got slowly more dense. And the less dense column was builders. So we have a lot of experts in the space, and I say that with respect, but at the same time, air quotes. We've got a lot of experts in the space. We've got a lot of consultants in the space, and a lot of people talking about how to do things, which is vital. It's important, and I am one of those people. Fair enough. I never call myself an expert, and I try my absolute best to never say I know everything, because as soon as you say that, you're not learning anything. But we have very few builders in the space. So I'll comment on that poll by saying, if you're not thinking of building your own thing in Web3, I would highly encourage you to dream a little bigger and, utilize your creativity and your imagination to help build out the space. Contribute first if you're not comfortable, but eventually think about starting your own thing, because we need more builders. It can't be built on the backs of 5 people. So yeah, and it took me a long time to get to that point, because I thought the same thing, which is you can basically come into this, learn a little bit, and start telling people who are coming into the space how to do things, and you can make a career out of that, and that's fine. I did the same thing, but you very quickly become unsatisfied with that, and the whole space absorbs you in the way that, you know, you want to contribute, you want to build something lasting. So I say jump in and do that rather.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Douglas. Just dropping gems on us tonight. Irina, would you like to have a little closing words?
Yes, thank you, Tuesday. I agree about builders. We need more builders, and by builders, we don't only mean developers. We mean entrepreneurs. We mean people with creativity, with passion, who want to do something in the space. So builders are everybody who's building blocks of this new Web3, of the metaverse. And just like now we have emails, we have websites. In 5-10 years, we will have other things of interacting with each other, of building it. And the whole purpose of this Web3 movement, I would call it, is to empower creators and give value back, power back, control back to creators who want to do something beyond the platform. And we've seen the boom of creative communities. There are so many content creators. We have now a new profession, which is blogger or YouTuber. So all of this valuable contribution that now helps reshape e-commerce, reshape communication, it's coming to Web3. And you are now watching us participating in this webinar, and you are at the point of shaping and building the Web3. And you may discover your own path, because as I always say, we need utility and creativity, and we need builders. So once you combine all this, you can surprise us with really creative, cool solutions on how we can exchange data value and what new applications we can build, or infrastructures, or any other elements of Web3.
Ida, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thank you. It's hard to top these comments here that we just had. Amazing comments, Douglas and Irina, really enjoy it. I think what I would like to add is, you know, the value of the outsider. So if you're not in the space and you're thinking about getting into it, your eyes are clean in that way, and the space needs you. Because if you think also about innovation and technological advancement, what is really happening is that we are finding or developing technologies that are solving human needs in a different way, needs like connection, trust, etc. And you already know that, most likely, what those solutions feel like and how they become successful in your current line of work. So if you bring that skill set over, that is very impactful.
Thank you. And Anas, we'll close with you.
Yeah, I think, look, it's really great to see that lots of people want to build. That shows that there's a lot of entrepreneurial vibes in the audience. We need more entrepreneurs. And even if it just means building, you know, a newsletter, or building something that is, it doesn't have to be a whole company. What's interesting about Web3 is it gives you the ability to build an entrepreneurial thing without too much investment, because it really just requires, you know, a little bit of knowledge about community building, marketing here. You can hire a lot of the people that you need through the likes of Fiverr, and you can really build whatever you need, right? Just like that. I think, you know, I've shared a bunch of things with you guys right now on Twitter, some threads, also a guide to Discord. I'd say, you know, explore those. You'll learn a lot about how it works. Participate. Make sure, I think everybody, if you really want to get the most out of this discussion, I would suggest that everybody in this call at the end, go on OpenSea, create a MetaMask, and buy your first NFT for something cheap. And just expect it to be nothing, not to make money, not to lose money. It could be just like $10 or $50. And just see it as an investment in understanding and learning. buy your first NFT and just post it on Twitter, just got my first NFT, looking to connect with anyone in the space. And I'm telling you, that will go a lot farther than just reading and reading and reading and reading and reading. You have to do in this space to really learn.
I love that. We need to do, and that's what it's about. There's only so much learning you can do, but jumping in and doing it, getting involved in the communities, getting involved in the discussions, asking questions. And Ida, you said something that's so beautiful that I actually felt in the beginning coming into this space, that everybody knows so much more than me. I feel like I'm going to ask a stupid question, and you realize that the community is so happy and willing to help you and answer your questions because they want you to be a part of it and to grow together. So on that note, I want to just say thank you so much to all of you guys for creating for making time for us tonight to share your wisdom, share your knowledge, and also share with us on the chat those wonderful links that we can use after the chats. And like I said, I'm sure they're more than happy to speak to anyone that still has any burning questions that haven't been answered. But it's been so lovely having you guys and speaking. I'm going to hand it back over to Francois from Digital Grind. Like I said, my name's Tuesday. Thank you guys so much.
Tuesday, thank you very much. Thank you to all the attendees. I'll get to the speakers. Basically, I just wanted to share from MetaMind 3.0 perspective, we recently launched our half-day workshops. The half-day workshop features several Web3 onboarding exercises to experience the virtual universe firsthand. Use the MetaMind 3.0 immersion workshop to equip your executive leadership and internal teams with the foundational knowledge and skills to future-proof your business in the simulated economy. Remember to follow us on all social media platforms. I know we've mentioned this numerous times. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Discord. And the name is MetaMind 3.0. Do not forget the 3.0. And then further to that, keep an eye out tomorrow. We'll be sharing some comms with all the attendees. And in there, you'll actually be able to view a full recording of this discussion as well. So if you feel that you've missed out on something, do not fear. We'll be sending that through. And then one last thing, and I would like to end that on a positive note. We received one anonymous comment, which was not a question, I guess, but somebody saying, if I get into Web3, will I become as good looking as all the speakers as well? So on that note, thank you to all the speakers, moderator, and attendees. Have a wonderful day, evening, wherever you are in the world, and we'll see you at our next event.